Hey everyone, this is author Monique Duell, author of How Do I Handle a Special Needs Child, and co-author of The Power of God, Women's Daily Devotional 2. And today I would like to talk to you about coping. I would like to discuss positive ways to cope, negative ways and negative effects of not coping properly, and how to change our perspective as far as what we see as it relates to our special needs child. Now, I would like to give you my definition of what I believe coping is. I believe that coping is the perspective in which you see a thing that you cannot change or alter. Again, the way you see things, your perspective that you cannot change or alter. How do you cope with that? So, when it comes to being a special needs mom, dad, caregiver of a loved one, coping is very important. How do you get through the daily stresses, the unpredictability, the long days and nights, the many doctor's appointments, perhaps surgeries, even, unfortunately for some, we lose our special needs loved ones. How do you cope? Do you have an outlet? Do you have a support group that you can take part in? Do you crochet? Do you write poetry? Do you sew? What is the thing that you do that helps you to relieve unhealthy stress when you're being pressed up against the wall? For me, coping was probably the hardest part of dealing with my son who had cerebral palsy. I was not coping properly. I thought I was coping properly, but I was not. The thing that I was doing, however, was I was stuffing, emotionally eating, which led to depression, which led to insomnia, or me wanting to sleep all the time. It led to me, just staying up for days at a time and going over and over in my mind, what did I do wrong when I was pregnant? How could I have changed this circumstance? And it just kept progressing until it got too much for me to handle. And at some point, before the breakdown happened, I sought a professional counselor because I was just at that breaking point where I could no longer cope, if you will, with the fact that my son has something that mommy cannot kiss and put a Band-Aid on. There's no pill for, there's no surgery for, and there are really no answers for other than what medical science has offered us. So, this is the thing. When you're trying to cope with a difficult situation, you have to look at it, you have to look more at the positives than the negatives, always. Because if you look at the negatives first, you will almost never see the positives because the negatives almost always outweigh the positive. A prime example, my son had an IAP meeting. And while they touched on his strengths, they spent more time on his weaknesses and what he could not do versus what he could. And so, of course, for me, that just made me cringe because we spent 30 minutes or so talking about all the things he could not do and only spent 5 minutes on the things that he could. Not a good thing. What I had to learn was to take those 5 things and magnify them to the point where it drowned out the negative things in my mind. That was one strategy I used. The other strategy I used was I found a support system. I started bowling. I joined a bowling league, and just the community, to have people around you that care about you and you can laugh with and you can cry with if necessary, was a big help for me. It helped me through the rough times when I could not think of words to say. I didn't have to have the words to say. My facial expressions or my body language said it all. And the people who knew me best knew that I was not well. And so they didn't offer me any words. They didn't offer no self-help books. Their presence was my gift. It was enough. A third thing, of course, was my faith. I had to lean on my faith. I had to trust God. If I was going to get through the years of being a single parent to Jeremiah, I had to go all in with my faith. It was all or nothing. I couldn't keep saying, yes, I trust God, but I'm fussing at God because I want my son to be healed and he's not. I want my son to walk and he can't. I want my son to run behind his brother and he can't. I had to make up in my mind and make a conscious decision that I was all in with my faith, come what may. That was it. There was no other options. And so that, for me, was the changing point. I had to lean on what I knew about God, even though I could not see what my son's future holds. So, the negative things that you don't want to do when trying to cope with the unpredictability. You don't want to close yourself off and isolate. I did that. Dangerous. I didn't realize until I reached for ice cream and cookies when I wanted to cry that I was emotionally eating. Dangerous. I gained a lot of weight and I'm working like a Hebrew slave to get it off. Another thing is to pretend that you're okay. You're not okay. If you're not okay, say that you're not okay. It's okay not to be okay. Reach out. We are not made of bricks. Even bricks crumble with enough force. Do you notice that? It takes a heavy machine, but bricks will fall to pieces with enough force. You cannot handle everything all the time alone. God did not design it that way. He did not design you and I that way. Another thing is, don't attempt to try to get into unhealthy habits. Don't try to soothe your pain with alcohol or soothe your pain with sex or soothe your pain with drugs. It's not going to go away. I heard someone say one time that everything that's buried isn't dead. So all of these thoughts that you pushed in the back of your mind and you think they're dead and gone, they're not dead. They're just lying there festering, waiting for the right moment. It's like the cartoon. You ever seen the cartoon and everything just starts piling up and then the one little feather comes down like this and bam, everything blows up? That's what happens when you're not coping properly. You're not doing it right. If you're like Katie Kaboom, Katie Kaboom was a cartoon character on the Animaniacs. Every time she got angry, she got so angry, she imploded whatever was near her. She would just totally blow up and everything with it. If you're blowing up, you're not coping properly. So before I leave, I got a couple of tips, and they spell out the word coping. And I hope these tips will help you to think about more positive ways for you to cope and deal with this unpredictable journey. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, you will shed tears. Yes, you will begin to question every little thing. Those things I don't think ever leave a mother or a father. But with the right tools in place, you can address those thoughts and those behaviors that keep showing up in a way that would bring your spirit down, that would cause you depression or to cause you to question your very existence as far as a parent is concerned. So let's start. The C, confront the emotion head on. Don't stuff it. Confront it. When you feel it, confront it right then and there. I don't care if you have to write it down. I don't care if you have to do a voice note. Whatever it is, confront it head on. Don't stuff it. As I said at the beginning, stuffing is for turkeys and envelopes and bras. It's not for your emotions. Okay? Observe your reaction to that particular emotional trigger. When it happens, observe how you react right then and there. Did you reach for a potato chip? Did you reach for ice cream? Did you reach for cookies? Did you pick up a cigarette? Did you go try to find a drink? What did you do? Observe, take notes, get to know yourself. It's not good to not be in touch with your emotions. You need to know what is going on in your emotional state so that you can address it before it turns into something that you can't control. Pray and praise yourself for the progress you've made. I don't care if you used to eat 5 cookies and you only ate 1. Praise yourself that you've only eaten 1 cookie and you didn't eat 5 because you wanted to cry. Praise yourself for the progress that you're making towards a better you. Invite someone you trust to help you in an emotional crisis. Don't sit there and say, oh, I'm okay, and you're shaking, you're trembling, you're crying uncontrollably. Reach out to somebody that you trust and say, hey, I'm not okay, I need you right now. Can you just give me a few minutes? Can you come over and talk to me? Or can you stay on the phone with me for a few minutes until I get myself together? Do not be ashamed, because at the end of the day, you're no good for your child or your loved one if you're not okay. Never, this is important, never beat yourself up or dismiss your feelings. God gave us our feelings and our emotions. They are indicators that something is either right or wrong. Never dismiss your emotions, and don't beat yourself up for feeling tired, because you're a human being of all the appointments and things. Don't beat yourself up because you're exhausted, because you're not getting enough sleep, because you're trying to be mommy, caregiver, chef, driver, this and that. Don't do it to yourself. And finally, get professional help when all else fails. This is so important. I don't know where did we get this idea that it's crazy of us to seek professional help or counseling. It's absolutely not true. You have to speak to someone else. Actually, having someone else that is a listening ear that don't know you or don't know your family is the most refreshing thing you could ever do. And those are my steps to coping. I hope what I said was of help and of benefit to you. My books, as I showed them to you earlier, they can be found on Amazon. I also have a brand new podcast on Anchor, and it's Anchor FM, I believe. You could download the app and listen to it, or you could follow me on social media. On Facebook, I'm Monique Duell, D-U-E-L-L. On IG, I'm Miss M-S-D-E-E-R-E-I-G-N, Miss D Rain. And on Twitter, I am at Monique Duell. You can find all of the information about my books and my podcast there. I pray that this particular video was a blessing to you, and the next series will be coming soon. Enjoy and be blessed.